Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to another journal with me. Today we are going to be working on creating a shadow work junk journal. So one of the things that I had gotten recently and wanted to work through was the Tarot for Troubled Times book. And as I started reading through this book, which I think is really a wonderful little workbook, I kind of started to notice that I wanted to do some journaling in conjunction with some of the things that I was reading. There's also exercises and things along those lines here, information about cards. And so I thought this might be a really interesting book to do alongside a journal. Now, in addition to like my daily tarot journal and some of the journals that you might have seen that go with specific decks, sometimes I also do journals based on specific books. So when I'm studying a book and I know that I'm going to be doing some deep work with it, I will go ahead and create a journal to go along with it. So the two decks that I'm actually going to be working with in conjunction with this book is my Dreamkeeper's Tarot, which is a deck that I've just gotten in not too long ago, and I already am quite in love with this deck. The images are just so beautiful. It's a stunning deck, but to me, it kind of has that little bit of a shadow work feel to it. Now, I haven't used this deck before, and I've not used it in readings. Has a gorgeous back. The cardstock is lovely. And I, of course, created this little bag for it. And the images just kind of had a shadow work feel for me. Now, I know that's not really what this deck was really kind of created and attuned for, but I just thought that it might be a good way to explore the deck in a different way. And then I also have here my, this is the Tarot of Unknown Shadows, which I have shown on my channel before. And this is a deck that I think is very well attuned to shadow work. It definitely has that kind of darker energy and vibe. There is a lot going on within these cards as well, and I think that there's a lot to sink into within this imagery. So we have two very different, there's the back of those, two very different decks that I think will complement each other really well for this process. So my idea is to work with these two decks alongside the Tarot for Troubled Times book. And you know, as I usually like to do, I am going to be creating a journal to go along with it. So I have picked up this leather journal, and this is just from Walmart. It's just basically your blank journal, and we're going to deconstruct it and create a junk journal. I have some paper set aside here, some things for ephemera, fabric that matches the two bags that I created. There's the Dreamkeeper's fabric, and in here I have some of the darker fabric as well. And so I thought we'll just take all of this and we're going to do another junk journal, this time specifically to create a journal for shadow work. So let's pop on over to my craft table and get started. Okay, so we have all of our goodies here, but the first thing that we need to do is to actually remove the pages, the journal section from this cover so that we can use it to create a junk journal. So we're going to move all this stuff out of the way for the meantime. And we are going to take the goodies out of this journal. So now we've removed all the pages, the whole book block, as this is called, from the cover. But really what I need to focus on is the actual writing papers. And I think for this one, while lined paper is not usually my favorite, I do prefer dot grid. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the lined paper that came with this, because I do know that it is the correct size and will fit in the journal, and I'm trying to save some of my other journal papers for other projects I have. So basically I just need to go through here and release the stitching on these. So finding those center stitches and then just going through and releasing them. And actually I have found that my little scissors in general work better for this. So just clip them out. and then pull them apart. I do have a whole tutorial on this process, and I will leave that link in the description box below. So we're just going to kind of zip through this process real quick just to get this going. Okay, so I got all of the pages removed, and I've just let them hang out in their signatures because we are actually going to make this as a sort of simplified junk journal. So we're going to primarily use the signatures as they are put together. So now that we have these, basically what I need to do is divide them into 2 groups, and then we're going to make some covers for them, slip a few little pages in between, and then go ahead and get them going together as a signature. Okay, so I have finished binding all of the papers together and to create the inside of the journal. And it's actually quite a bit fatter than I thought it was going to be, so it's a bit of a tight fit. So this is probably going to be one of those journals that ends up going like that. So next we need to contend with the cover, but before we do that, I did want to add a couple of things. One of the things that I wanted to add was which I should have done before, I was thinking about adding a ribbon closure, or a ribbon bookmark, which generally you just glue it to the back here, and then you let it, sit. It comes from behind the book binding here. But because I have these raggedy tops, that's not really going to work very well. And I do want the raggedy top to stick out of this. So I've just been kind of trying to figure out a way to maybe include that, but to go around it somehow. And I'm wondering if I can do like something where I glue this ribbon on the inside between the two so that it's a little bit more decorative, and then it can work as a bookmark. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do and hope it works out, because if it doesn't, I'm kind of it's not exactly going to come off very easily. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try it. So I am just going to run a bead of glue here and then lay the ribbon down in the middle and hope that that actually works. I don't know that it will, so we'll see, because this is not something that I've done before. So now I'm just going to actually set that aside and let it kind of hang out and dry for a little bit. So while that's going on, the other thing that I want to do is I wanted to see if I could add a pen. I need to add a ribbon closure, and then I was thinking about adding a pen, what do they call that? A pen holder as well. Get my ribbon for my ribbon closure so I don't forget that. These are pretty much, I know from previous experience, these are glued down really well, so I'm not even going to attempt to pull those off. I'm gonna just cut a little bit of this elastic here and see if this will maybe make a pen holder. What I need to do now is I need to cover these. So I need to figure out what kind of paper I want to use. I do know that none of these scrapbook papers that I have currently are big enough. But I didn't end up putting on the covers as I normally do. So normally each of my inserts have a cover, and I didn't end up doing that because I knew these inserts were getting really thick, and if I added these are really thick. So maybe what we'll do is I'll use these for my inside cover papers. And, you know, we'll just have different ones in the front than we do in the back, and that's not really a big deal. I've definitely done that before. So basically we just want to measure. I do want to cut that off, so trim off that little hole there. And then basically, and the other thing is I think I cut these already to size. They are a little too tall, so I just need to trim it down a little bit. Put that right there. Get it lined up. Okay, so there's one. And as you can see, that's going to sit in there and be the cover page to cover up this paper because this is just not very pretty. The correct size for this, and I'm just going to clip one of these just to be sure. Find one that's not buckled. So yeah, that's handy when that happens. So we just want to make sure that we get everything going the right way that we want. So we're going to go with this one here. Okay, so that's going to sit there like so. So before we actually glue these down, we need to run our ribbon closure across the center. Okay, so I've let it dry just a little bit, and basically now we're just going to go ahead and glue this the signature in, and you can see like already like this is gonna be fat. I'm not even sure it's 100% gonna fit, but we're gonna make it work. Okay, so I have finished up my shadow work journal, so I thought we'd just take a quick peek at it. I have my 2 decks and of course my book that I will be working with throughout this whole process. So you can see I created it in the leather cover. I have the ribbon closure, and this one I did let it sit overnight to flatten down, but it's still quite thick, so I'm gonna have to be careful when putting things in it. So I added a few touches. I added some lace over this. I added a pocket here with some of that fabric and a bookmark. Has little kitty cats on the other side that I wanted to just include as well. And I added this, and that was about it because really I want to add as I go. So I thought we'd just take a quick flip through. I have lots of pages, probably too many. Some book pages, lots of blank journaling pages here, some old book pages, coloring pages, here's the center of the first one. So you can see I did quite a bit of layering. Here's where the second signature hits. Here's my here's where the signatures divide, and then of course I have that little ribbon bookmark that I put in there. And it just is a pretty, it's a fairly blank, fairly basic junk journal at this point. But that's the idea, is for me to be able to add to it, right? So I didn't want to overdo it to start with because I want to leave plenty of room. Although I did end up kind of overdoing it because I put too many pages in, and that's That's something that I do quite often, actually. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun to work with. And here's the back. And I did manage to get a pen loop in there, which does work well. So that was the whole process of creating my shadow work tarot journal. So I hope you enjoyed this journal with me as we worked to create my shadow work tarot junk journal. I hope you enjoyed this video and will join me again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.